What's up, boys and girls, Lambo here, and today's video will be another free MMR Friday video. In today's video I'm gonna cover a very early game, ZvZ All in. So it's gonna be the 12-11, 12 gas 11 pool Ling Bane All in, which is gonna get you a bunch of free wins. Just a disclaimer right off the bat, if your opponent is gonna play pool first, you're just gonna lose no matter what. And if your opponent is doing the perfect reaction, this will also not work. But I think the same goes for every single all-in, so let's take a look at it. For this, I just played some custom games with Elazer, who's pretty good in the early game micro department. And we kind of traded games back and forth a little bit, and we resumed a couple of times from replays because it's very easy with these builds in these scenarios to make a couple of mistakes. So if you're gonna see this message that we're resuming from replay, that's because one of us messed up in the game before. But I'm gonna show pretty much all the games that we played anyways, so I can talk a little bit about those mistakes. Anyways, let's get straight to the build order because it starts very early on. You don't make a single drone, and then at around 150 minerals, so what you want to look at is the minerals, you take your gas. This is around at 14 seconds if you want to look at the timer. I do it with the minerals. Then at 200 minerals you obviously make the spawning pool. This should go down at 19 seconds. And then we make 3 more drones. Now already it is very important here that you do not make a 14th drone, because otherwise you would not be able to build 6 links right away. So then we make this overlord here at 13, not at 14 again. It's fine if you guys don't stack these drones here, just because sometimes they will go away from the exactly like this drone right here. I think only stacking drones on 2 of the close mineral patches is fine, and then you don't have to worry about it anymore. Anyway, so the moment the overlord pops and the pool is done, we start 6 links. The moment we have 100 gas, we start speed. And now at 36 gas, I pull 1 drone off gas. And now I make the baneling nest. The moment I have 100 minerals and 50 gas. And we're just producing zerglings. You don't really need to worry about anything else. So this, for a lot of your opponents, will look just like a 12 pool as well. These zerglings are like 3 seconds later than the usual 12 pool, or 2.5 seconds later, something like that, because you make the gas first. So the pool is delayed by these 25 minerals plus the little bit of extra minerals that the drone wouldn't mind. So maybe it's like delayed by like 30 minerals. So it's almost a 13 pool, but not quite. So here are these messages that I was talking about earlier. And now let's get straight to the execution. So we want to kill our opponent, right? I will show you guys 2 different ways of executing this build. One that I'm going to show you guys later on is when you just hit the hatchery and you pretend it's a 12 pull. You're hitting the hatchery at 154, whereas usually you start hitting the hatchery on light shot at 152. Your opponents might also look at the clock by the time they see the zerglings, but if they don't, and if they just play based on feeling, a lot of your opponents will pull drones, in which case this is a free win. So but let's take a look at the way I would execute it, especially on short maps, which is very powerful. So we went straight into the main base, and we start hitting drones. You need to watch out that you don't get surrounded here. I just want to bait these drones into trying to attack me, and specifically that they're not mining. This is so you're denying minerals from your opponent, so he can start a spinecrawler plus a baneling nest. You can see he made 10 links immediately. And he started both queens. Also, one thing that the Elazer did very well here is he skipped the overlord to get that 1 extra larva from the main base the moment he saw these zerglings. So this is something that your opponents might do wrong already. He starts 2 queens and a spinecrawler right away. And you can see he cannot afford a baneling nest possibly, nor can he afford speed. So this is why we go into the main base. We do not want to take any fights though. Now I'm trying to set up a little bit of a surround. The best way I found to surround is to make a little bit of a wall on the right, a little bit on the wall to the left. And now I messed it up, but we got 1 zergling. You should already pre-hotkey your 5th set of links to an extra hotkey and start morphing them around this far away from your opponent's base. So basically you look at how far the creep is, and preferably this should be morphed up against the wall. You look how far the creep is and you take around that that same distance, maybe a little bit longer. So usually the creep would be up until here, right? So this would be approximately as much again. The reason we want to morph these a little bit away is because your opponent can have a lot of Zerglings. So Elazer has the maximum amount of Zerglings. Your opponents might have 2 less Zerglings, very, very often actually, that's what they're gonna have. Or, yeah. So then we morph these other two Zerglings, so the next 2 that are coming, link number 11 and 12, also into 2 banelings. And we kind of just want to spend all our gas on banelings and all our minerals, we're just producing Zerglings. I did not make a queen this game to afford these Zerglings, because I think with the version where you want to go into the main base, it's really all about having the Zerglings as early as possible. The queen, if you start a queen at 20, that's also one variation I'm going to talk about a little bit later. You can start more rapid link production soon, but it's going to be not relevant most of the time for the timing that we're trying to hit. So what I did here was I tried to catch the queen. The queen usually spawns at 237, so he actually cancelled his queen here, but more often than not, you guys will just get a free queen here. So just stay here until like 240 to make sure that the queen isn't coming, and then you can start going to the main base. So at 240 we go up, and then we just try to attack the spine crawler with all the links if there's a spine crawler. I mean, here it comes down very, very much to reactionary micro. You need to see is there anything that's super clamped up, or is my opponent trying to engage me with the Zerglings? Maybe you can kite back a little bit, force him into a baneling. In general, your banelings should be mostly move commanded unless there's a big clump of units, because they zone out everything. So since I'm attacking the spine crawler right now, if he was just focus firing the spine, the banelings with the banelings would blow up on the spine would die even faster. So he's just letting it A-move, which is actually the correct call in a lot of scenarios. And now there's a massive baneling hit here, and at this point he's pretty much out of units. So this was probably supposed to be a wall. Like the way you defend this, I'm going to talk about a little bit later on. And Elazer messed up slightly here. But this is the main idea. One thing that I didn't do yet is because I was focusing on the micro so much, I didn't put down a hedge. You can start a hedge at some point if you do this. More often than not, just the micro will be the most important part. So that's you should prioritize it for sure while this is going on. I could have started a queen now, but before that point I was supply blocked because I just made Zerglings. So usually maybe right before you go up would be a nice time, like right now, to make a hatchery. Like right now, because right now you don't really need to look at anything. So if I will do that the next time, I'm not a super specialist at these kind of builds because I don't do them very often, but if you do this build at home, do make a hatchery right about now. I think would be a nice thing to do, and then focus purely on the micro part. So this was the very best case scenario, and this was with the Zerglings running straight into the main base, right? So let's take a look at one of the replays where I messed it up a little bit, and let's see at what can go wrong on the execution front. Alright, so we're in the second game right now. The build order is still the same. I'm gonna go into my vision. This game, the last game, as we saw, it's very, very easy to just get free wins with this build. If your opponent messes up at all in his defense, or does one major mistake, which is very easy to do, the game can just completely and entirely end right then and there. One thing that I also wanted to talk about is that in this scenario, Elazer already knew the build I was going for, which is helpful because you don't need to think, oh, is this maybe a 12 pull? Or is this the version with only speed? There's a version where they don't get a baneling nest. And he knows exactly what he wants to do already because he did it a couple of times. So this is usually better for the defender. Whereas if you guys are playing this on the ladder, your opponent might not know this unless a lot of people around your MMR start copying free MMR Friday builds. I'm not sure how popular those are, but I also hope that this will spice up the sub war that I'm going to have against Shoutout. In case you guys watch this video right after I release it, I'm going to have a sub war, which means my Twitch subscribers are going to play against Shoutout's Twitch subscribers, and we have a $100 bet, or well, 20 gifted sub bet on that match as well. That's gonna be tomorrow at 5 CET while this replay is still going on. So this time I messed up getting these links, and I got a couple of extra hits in, so I thought I would just chase them. But I followed them way too far. And now Elazer just gets a cancel on my Baneling. I know it's kind of over. So this is really how easy it is to mess up with this build. From it being a decently strong build to pretty bad. And now I also couldn't morph the other two Zerglings into extra Banelings because I tried to block in the Zergling. So now I need to use the Baneling over here, which means he can fight here with Queens plus Zergling. He can bring the Queen in here from the main base. And you only have very, very little Zerglings, so you need to really watch out for your Zerglings, which means if you trade with your Zerglings against his Zerglings alone, or with your Zerglings against his Queen and a couple of drones alone without a Baneling support. So the Banelings basically, what the Banelings do is they prevent your opponent from engaging with more than like 2 units at once. Otherwise, they're gonna take a pretty bad trade, right? But if he was only engaging with 2 units at once, that makes it very hard for him to engage at all, because then the Speedlings will just kill his units without them really doing any damage. So usually what the defender is trying to do is he's trying to split up the aggressor, so have multiple control groups of Zerglings, and then maybe try to get Queens in these pockets, and then sometimes attack with drones. And another thing you can do as a defender is make a wall here. Here a Queen, like Baneling Nest full wall, Queen here, you can make Evo Chambers here and here. You can do this on most maps. But even just running away from the Banelings with the drones is one thing that the defender can do. And you also do not ever have to hold this, so don't try to hold the natural. You can theoretically try to take a fight with a couple of drones. That was a response a while ago, but I think this is the safest response that you guys should go for if you guys want to beat this build. I can go more in detail about how to beat this build. But you guys see I just have no Zerglings left over. I did go for the Queen variation this game, but like, what am I gonna do? He has a Spine now that I obviously need to blow up, and now he has 2 Queens on the ramp and the game is over, so IGG. So this is how quickly it can go wrong. Always make sure to protect these Banelings and don't run too far away with these Zerglings. Very, very important. If these Banelings are too far forward, by the way, that's also a mistake that probably a bunch of you are gonna make. He can just force a Ling versus Ling trade, which is gonna be super, super good for him. Because as I said, you really, really don't want to take Ling versus Ling fights without the Banelings. So you want to take it as far back as possible, because then you can engage from behind the Zergling, behind the Banelings. And if he actually tries to engage, he will never get the Banelings. You can have like a little bit of a concave, and more often than not, you're just gonna get a massive Baneling hit. And if they try to, so he needs to try to do something else. So this was a game where Elazer won very easily. Now I'm gonna show you guys a little bit of a closer game in the next one. Alright, so now we're in the third game. These were exactly reversed from the order in which we played them, by the way, in case anyone is curious. The one where I won the easiest was the last one, so even though he knew it was coming and he had a little bit of practice, it's still very, very easy to mess it up. And this game, he's gonna hold he's gonna hold decently the first time around. I'm not gonna get the surround here again on these Zerglings. And I mess up and I morph this Baneling too far forward. This is why you should only morph either these Zerglings into Banelings or morph extra Banelings after your first couple are out. I saw that this was a good Baneling hit against Zerglings. And again, we wait here until 2 minutes and 40. Yeah, he actually his Queen was a little bit too late because he forgot it this game. But usually it finishes at like 2:37, I think. But if you wait until 2:40, even if they forget it a little bit because of panic, usually it's gonna be there. So now, already we don't have extra Banelings, which is bad, because the punch should come right now. So as you can see right now, he doesn't even have a Spine Crawler. If I knew that, I would have probably went in, but I'm waiting for extra Banelings right now at this moment in time. And I also went for the Queen version again, so I went Queen Overlord. And now we're trying to go in, and now one mistake that I did, one thing that is very good that you can do is go in with Banelings here. And sometimes they will pull their drones here and then try to mineral walk here, and then if you come with Banelings from the other side, it's good. But what I wanted to do right now is bust the Spine, and I would have been able to do that just fine. But I needed these 2 Banelings here. Like, these 2 Banelings I'm just gonna lose for free, so that was a massive mistake by me. And you can see that even good players can mess this up big time. He pulled the drones back here a little bit too early. And he lost the drones, so first I made the mistake of losing 2 banelings for free, and now he lost 6 drones that he didn't really need to lose. And he barely got a transfuse in time for the spine crawler because my attack hit so late, since my banelings marked so late. And now one mistake he did here is he thought he held it, and he had two more queens on the way, right? So he already resumed drone production, because very often you're gonna get some damage done and then your opponent won't be sure as to what he's supposed to do. Meanwhile, I'm just making drones. Now 8 Zerglings at a time, because this is the first inject, by the way. So like this is the first time where you actually get a new big swell of links. So it's super late. And now, even now, he's still completely fine if he just micros properly. So if he stays here on the ramp, I think he's fine, even though he has very little units. But one thing that he needs to do right now is split his banelings. I know he can't have many Zerglings because I saw him droning. So I decide to use my 2 banelings to trade for his 2 banelings. We'll get a queen, and that's game, because he doesn't have anything anymore. So right now he has, well, this queen, but it's dead, and he has no units left. So the next move would be to go back into the main base, but then for sure we could bust this. Banelings are very good against spine crawlers, and it would look basically like the very first bust this round, even though it's the second one. So I think the best thing to do usually in these scenarios is to just go for the kill, because it's very hard to get a hatchery down. But if he lets you attack the hatchery, taking the hatchery with you is going to be a good thing. Now the next one that I'm going to show you, as I said before, is the second variation, where you pretend it's a 12 pull and you just hit the hatchery. I think this one might be just as good for lower level players, if not even a little bit better, because noticing the difference of 2 to 3 seconds, or I think it's around 3 seconds, is going to be very hard. So differentiating the 12 pull from a 13 or 12-11 is going to be pretty rough. So I think this is a decent one to go for, especially because you guys also will always get the hatchery with this, always, no matter what. So let's take a look at it. Alright, so now we're in the last replay that I'm going to show you guys. This will be how to execute the build when you're going for the fake 12 pull, I'm going to call this, to the fake 12 pull variation. This one is hitting even later because we got a bad spawn. In case you guys don't know what the bad spawn is in ZvZ, especially on short maps, you want to spawn for the early game with your larva towards the natural, because it spawns closer to the ramp. So his Zerglings will be here faster, and my Zerglings are further away from him. So especially on like Lightshade, Submarine, and Jagannatha, the spawns really do matter quite a bit for the early game. Obviously, having the larva spawn towards the mineral line is a little bit nicer for mining minerals in general, very slightly. But for 12 pulls, this is by far the better spawn, and this also will then spawn better for your drones to spawn towards your natural, so it kind of evens out. So overall, when I will talk of the good spawn, it will always be the top spawn on small maps in ZvZ, because there's actually quite some RNG involved. It matters a ton, especially for 12 pull, because your Zerglings are going to get a bunch of extra hits in compared to what they usually would get. So like it's at the point where if I get the good spawn, I would go pull before gas, and when I go hedge first, and when I have the other way around. If I have the bad spawn, I would go pull before gas, and if I have the good spawn, I would go gas before pull. But this is more of a high level thing. So this time we're hitting the hatchery, and now a lot of players, I think, would pull drones. Even like higher level players, I'm pretty sure, maybe even on longer maps where they don't know the 12 pull timing as well, will try to pull drones to save this hatchery. And what you do is exactly the same thing. You morph these into banelings and you just run away. Make sure to not fight against the drones. Just run away. They're gonna lose so much mining time, and they're never gonna have a spine, that the moment the banelings are done, the game just ends. You can just fight his units. You're gonna get massive baneling connections. If he just runs away, you just keep getting free hits with the Zerglings. So we're morphing these banes now. Again, very similar to how we executed it before. And we're just going straight to the main. Usually you're supposed to kill the queen. This is a mistake that I made. I'm not sure if my banelings were slightly too late at this game, but usually at the moment your banelings are here together with the zerglings. Make sure to also not block the queen. If you surround the hatchery from the bottom, the queen will spawn, but away from the bottom. So you want to attack it preferably slightly from the left here. If you get there, if you don't, just make sure your zerglings are around this area with a baneling. So now we got a big baneling hit. And now I'm pretty sure, like, at this moment in time, we're just making sure that we're gonna get this hatchery without too much extra larvae spawning from it, but you already did get a decent amount of larvae. Make sure to not have your banelings too close, because then the broodlings can take them out. Now we're morphing extra banes, and now we're trying to go for it. This cost him some mining time, but now he also has banelings, and this is where you can see the difference of if you go to the main base, they're losing quite a bunch of minerals, so he wouldn't have banelings this early, and he cannot afford 3 queens, which is what he could afford this game. So this is already the difference. But on the flip side, even if you don't do any damage, or even if you just get a couple of drones, you can macro out of it. So I went queens, and I'm making drones right now, because I already knew that I wasn't gonna be able to finish him. Now here I completely messed up, I should not have lost these banelings. I could have denied his base for quite a bit because he didn't have zergling speed. So losing the banelings here was really bad, like that. And losing these zerglings here was also not good. So now we're taking the hatchery. And you can see that we are behind because he's also taking his hatchery. But not by that much. Like, his advantage is that he's basically unbreakable, because he has a spine and he has a couple of queens. But we're 1 worker up, the minerals and the gas is even, so you can just play a macro game from that. I'm just gonna continue a little bit to tell you guys about the follow-ups if you're playing macro games like these. There are basically 3 different options. 1, you can play 2 base roach from this, very standard. Kind of as in a fake muta, where it's very important that whenever you do this, you don't let them scout your main base. Because usually the most common follow-up is 2 base muta, so maybe I should talk about that first. 2 base muta is very strong because you mine more gas than necessary, because you can see this hatchery is done and we already have more than 16 drones, so we're obviously over mining gas, so you can spend it into a lair, for example, into a very early lair, maybe getting a second gas and then going into muta, so that's one of the things that you could do. What I'm going to do here is I'm going for Carapace, because I figured he would probably go muta because he already has a spine and a lot of gas to work with, right? So I figured, okay, as in a counter to muta, I will go for Carapace here and spend my gas that way. You can also try to go 2 base lair with roaches, as in a mine game, where very often your opponent is going to try to all-in you and then you're going to have roaches, and for obvious reasons that's very good for you then. So those are the 3 main options, and then there's also, you can just take a 3rd hatch and kind of say whatever with the gas. And just play a standard macro game. I just wanted to point out that this game is super even. I don't think it really matters how this game goes. It's gonna end up in Roach versus Roach. Elazer is gonna do some weird Nidus. I end up taking some damage from Nidus because I didn't see it, and then I end up killing him with a counter attack. I just wanted to show that even though I didn't really do any damage here, I denied some mining time, I got this hatchery, I forced Spine plus Baneling Nest. It's very playable if you do this variation where you always will kill the hatchery. Whereas with the other variations, it's much more likely that you're gonna get a straight up kill, but there is much less transitioning potential. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys have any ideas what build I should cover next in the MMR Friday series for next week, you guys can let me know, maybe also which matchup specifically it should be for. And all the replays, as always, are gonna be in the description available, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. Alright, the one last thing is I played against this build, against Dong Ragu in the War Chest Team League, which was my team against, was DRG on Ben's team. I can't really remember what team it was, but it was on Ice and Chrome, which obviously is a little bit of a bigger map, but the response that I did there was almost perfect. It was practically perfect. I was pretty far ahead afterwards. So if you guys want to see how to defend this, you can check out that. Maybe I'm gonna link it if I find it. I know the War Chest stuff is a little bit hard to find because I don't think they have single VODs from single games, but rather always from the entire clan wars. But either way, that's that sums it up what I wanted to talk about in this video. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. See you guys in the next one. Make sure to subscribe and click the button, and bye bye.